And we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. I am the voice of rural America. Now, we are getting into the timeline of the events. We call it events that have taken place on 9/11/2001. And I want to do a little segment here. And there's two things I want to look at. 9/11/2001 and 9/11/2017. Where are we at today? What happened in that gap of where we're at today and that day in 2001? First of all, we're in it's 9:04. So Flight 175, 1 minute ago, Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower. Okay? While I was on the phone with Pennsylvania State Rep Justin Simmons, Flight 11, 846, Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower. So approximately 2 minutes ago, 11 years ago, at this time, Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower. And you see several of the pictures there. And we're going to get the South Tower at 9:59, right as we go off the air, okay? So the last minute we're on the air this morning, 9:59, the South Tower is the first to collapse. Okay, first one to start collapsing at 9:59, and Richie's got several just World Trade Center. There's the look of it starting to collapse, and then at 10:03, at 10:03. Shanksville, PA, Flight 93, where the hijackers were not successful and the passengers took over, crashed in a field outside of Pittsburgh in Somerset County, Shanksville, PA. 10:28, the North Tower collapses at 10:28. At 10:50 that morning, 5 stories of part of the Pentagon collapsed due to fire. And at 5:20 p.m., World Trade Center number 77, World Trade Center building number 7, a 47-story building collapsed. And so many things on the timeline, but it's actually a day we'll never forget. Or will we? Will we forget it? Will revisionist historians, will it be rewritten that day? What it was like the day that you and I felt we were under attack? Now, let me say about 9/11, I am honest, obviously, I'm very aware of the debate. Some people don't like the word debate, but I am very aware of the debate of who did it. I'm very aware of the debate of it being an inside job. I'm very aware of all the debate, okay? Very aware of it. I'm very aware of all of the ties to Saudi Arabia. I will never forget when Rudy Giuliani handed the Saudi king back his check. Remember that? Handed it back to him. We don't want your money, okay? Which we probably took their money in a roundabout way that wasn't, a big picture with the presentation of a check. You know what? Regardless of who is responsible, and I'm trying to be cautious of my words, who is responsible for 9/11, there's 9/10 before, and there's way before. Now leave the skyline up there for a minute. And in the New York skyline, I just want to share something with you, okay? You see the Statue of Liberty there? And you see the Statue of Liberty and the Twin Towers right behind there? Let me just say this. You know, I don't do it very often because some people give me a hard time about it, but I grew up in New Jersey. Just saying. The World Trade Center was opened. The World Trade Center opened April 4th, 1973. So I ask you a question. Have you ever been up in the Statue of Liberty in the New Jersey Harbor? Have you ever been up there? And have you ever got to the crown of the Statue of Liberty as a young boy, 1970 something? Have you ever got to that crown and looked out the glass of New York City from the inside that tower, the statue? Have you ever done that in the early 70s? Looked out at New York City? So it was built and opened in 1973. So do you think maybe the year after it opened, 1974, wanting to see the World Trade Center from the Statue of Liberty, not from the outside, not passing by, from the actual crown of the Statue of Liberty? You know, I did that. I did that. I'm not going to tell you how old I was at that time, but I'm going to say 1974. I like to leave that gray area. 1975, went up in the Statue of Liberty, okay, and looked over at the World Trade Center. You see, I grew up in New Jersey, and the World Trade Center there behind you, we watched it as it was being built. Now, we did not live close enough in New Jersey to see it daily, but we went close to the city on different occasions for different things. So we watched it as it was going up into the skyline of New York. When I was a kid, we watched it. And then when it was built, then we watched it, if you must know, we would see it as we were, you know, going to Yankee Stadium. I know, all you Braves fans. But we watched it as we were going to Yankee Stadium as this Twin Towers kept going up in the air, okay? And we watched the news accounts. We watched the news accounts before, way before 9/11, back in the early 70s, where there was news and there was prediction a small plane would go through the towers. We heard that as kids. When we were kids in the New Jersey area, the nightly news and the talk, one of these days, you know, they keep building those. One of these days, plane's going to go right through them. Yeah, you're going to have one. Because if you've ever been around New York City and you look up, I mean, there's like little planes going all over the place, helicopters. I mean, they're back and forth, okay? So you would hear, when we were kids, you would hear on the news, one of these days, one of those little planes going to go right through there, okay? And so that morning, myself, along with many of my relatives and many of my friends that grew up in New Jersey, when Tower 1 was struck, the first thing we said, I got up, I turned on the news, I got coffee, which it was way before that, but I had coffee going, I'll never forget, and I had the news in the background, and it came on that some sort of plane had just struck the Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. So the first thing that come out of my mind and my mouth was, hey, one of those planes, we always knew one of these days, one of those little planes were going to go through that tower, okay? One of those planes, all right? And see, this was 8:46, almost 9 o'clock. Got the news on, coffee going. One of those little planes. I called my sister. Hey, what happened? I don't know. One of those little planes finally went through. You know, trying to see now what happened. All right. Called a friend of mine that works in New York City. What happened? I don't know. One of them little planes, right? So that was the talk at Tower 1. Until we were all fixated on the TV to see what it was, and we actually watched that second plane go through Tower 2. We actually watched that second plane. You know, I'm going to make this brief, but I grew up next to two guys, Dominic and Robert. We'll just leave it, Dominic and Robert. Okay? Two nice Italian guys. All right? We played baseball together every day, Dominic and Robert. I mean, our property was here, their property was here, their garden matched up to their dad's garden matched up to my dad's garden. And so we played baseball 7 days a week, Dominic and Robert and my brother and I and all the kids in the neighborhood. We all grew up together. So we grow up together, we all go different directions. Dominic and Robert decided to go to work for the IRS. just saying. And their offices happened to be in the World Trade Center. Both of them. They lived in New Jersey, okay? They got on the bus every morning. I think it's MARTA, right? MARTA bus. They got on MARTA every morning and went into New Jersey to work in the work. That's the way it works. They go to the park and ride, get on there. So they worked there their whole lives, okay? Now, Robert, my best friend, almost, we consider each other like brothers, okay? Our family. Robert had a surgery about 2 weeks before this happened, and he was on medical leave for about 6 months. Dominic called in that morning. Kid I played baseball with, he called in that morning because he had a personal thing in his home that he had to take care of, and he called in and didn't go that day and didn't make the decision not to go till that morning. Now, the reason I tell you that story, because see, that was 2001, 9/11, and there was 9/10, and then there's 9/12. I hope no one forgets what happened. I hope no one forgets, I'm so sorry to be so candid, the pictures and the video of flying bodies out of the tower, jumping to their death. I hope we never forget it. Now, I, for one, think it opened the door for the government, for us to have the government want to help us, come in and help us. And we want to be secure. And we want the first responders immediately. And I support first responders. Let's not go down that road. But I'm going to tell you something. We need to take a sharp, bright, strong look at what happened on September 12th, 2001, all the way up to 2017, where we're at today. Okay? We need to take a good look. And we never need to forget that those towers collapsed, regardless. Do you know the fear I have? You know, I come to you every day and I tell you, and this is very sincere, I tell you every single day, I don't trust the government. I do not. I don't believe in our government, sorry to say. I mean, I'm about as true blue American as you can get. From apple pie to playing baseball to riding bicycles without a helmet. Maybe that's the problem. I'm a Reagan conservative. I keep it here on the desk. My age is definitely, I'm a Reagan conservative. Okay, that's who I am. And I believe that all the technology today would fit in a yesterday kind of world, meaning we don't need to forget our yesterday and how unified we were as a nation and how we can be again and mirror the technology into that. I don't see no reason why we can't. But I will tell you this. I know you don't like, maybe when I say I don't trust our government, maybe you don't like when I say I get nervous. about things in this country, and I come on here and I talk deep state, and I really do talk about the deep state and the corruption and the swamp, and we finally called it out after all these years, what it is. But I tell you this, I hope and pray, and I'm not going down 9/11 and in a negative way, because I just told you very emotionally what it means to me, okay? Because the towers you watch come down, I appreciate if you were in Idaho that morning. I appreciate if you were in California. I appreciate if you were in Texas. I appreciate if you were in Georgia. I appreciate if you were anywhere and you came to help New York, because you did from all over the country. But there's a little bit of difference that morning when I watched those planes go through that tower. A little bit of difference when you're there and there's that emotion attached to it. So I'm going to tell you now, I understand the debate. I've watched the videos. I've heard the questioning. I've heard the interview with engineers, all the above. But I just hope and pray that our government had nothing to do with, did not in any way know about, or foster that attack in any way. That's my prayer, and that's a sincere prayer. I do not like the fact that it was terrorism. I do not like the fact of saying that if it was anything, my hope is terrorism. Now, I know that did not come across the way you think it should have. But 9/11, 2001, it's something we don't have to forget, and I think we need to look at the space between then and now. All right. Do I have any other pictures I've not rolled through on that, Richie? Yeah, the Pentagon, put up the Pentagon. That was a picture of the Pentagon. And then Shanksville, the field out there in summer. Right. Okay, we're going to take a brief break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the very end of the show, 40 minutes. Steve Bannon interview will be the strongest part of this next segment. And I know Richie's ready to go. He watched it. What do you think is the first thing I got this morning from him. I watched it. So we'll talk about that when we get back. I'm your host, BKP. Take us a break, Richie.